late.
Okay,
But she'll be here.
great. Great. And Lindsay, we know, is has a chance of running late, and Susan Chandler is definitely running late. Probably won't join us until about 5 o'clock.
Okay, you're all set.
Okay, thank you. Call today's meeting to order. Everyone, thank you for being here today. If any of you are online observing us, welcome, please. Just want to read some oh, there's Heather. Excellent. Considerations to keep in mind regarding today's meeting. We're meeting virtually to comply with our state's Stay Safe in Minnesota executive orders. All members of the commission and the staff were meeting remotely and to maintain the safety of our community. Hopefully that's going to change shortly, but for the time being, we are following the guidance of the state as we hold this meeting. Remember to mute your audio when not participating, and please leave your camera on unless you're having some sort of low bandwidth or connectivity issues. Use the chat if you're having any technical difficulties. It doesn't seem we are right now. Members of the public that wish to submit comments to our commission, to the Arts and Culture Commission, please do so electronically on the city's webpage, edinamn.gov. We'll call the roll after each motion, after each step that requires it. So please unmute when that time comes for your name to be called. I think that is it in terms of prologue. Heather, are you able to turn your camera on? Heather, we can't hear you. Maybe you're on mute as well. There we go. We see Heather. Very good. Perfect. So we have a quorum present, so we can proceed with our meeting today. So I'm not sure who's going to do it, Perry or Tracy. If you can do the roll call, Perry.
Correct, Chair Rubin. I'll call the roll this evening. And for those of you that have your agenda in front of you, for convenience, we've listed your names alphabetically. We'll use that as the roll call order for this evening for any motions or approvals that we need this evening. So you can plan to take your mics off of mute as we go. So I'll just take the roll call for the first step. Commissioner Chandler, Commissioner DiLorenzo, Commissioner Isaacs.
Here.
Commissioner Kankamala, Commissioner Martin.
Here.
Commissioner Piela.
Here.
Commissioner Shen. Commissioner Sorensen.
Present.
Commissioner Sucko.
Suko, present.
Suko. Thank you, Commissioner Suko. And Commissioner Chair Rubin.
Here, present. Thank you.
The roll's been taken, Chair.
Okay, before we proceed into the meat of the meeting, I do want to make a couple of comments. First of all, you may not all know it, but Susan Tarnowski had eye surgery at Mayo Clinic 2 weeks ago. And that's why Perry and Tracy and Janet are here helping today. Susan hopefully will be back for our next meeting. I haven't been in contact in the last 2 days, but prior to that, Susan, she's recuperating relatively well. And we look forward to seeing her back here at next month's meeting. I also want to let you know that Michelle Morgan Nelson, unfortunately, has resigned from the commission effective today. I had a long conversation with her, and if any of you want any of that feedback, I'd be glad to do it. It's all on good terms and doesn't signify any lack of interest or consideration on her part. She's going to miss being part of this group, and I want to make sure we all thank her if we get the opportunity, or please reach out to her and thank her for the work she's done. And I also just want to say before we get too far that today is Heather Isaacs' last meeting. Her term is running out, and so we just want to say thank you to Heather for her time and contributions and involvement in the past 3 years, but probably seems longer than that for you, Heather. Been doing, so thank you. And I'm sure you can reach out to Heather and find out what she's going to do with her spare time following this. So always changes. We'll talk later about new commissioners that are coming on starting next month. Okay, so let's take a look at the meeting agenda. You should have it all in front of you, either in paper printed out or online. So I'd like to ask for a motion to accept the meeting agenda. Can I hear a motion, please? Anybody?
I motion to accept the meeting agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Sorensen. Any seconds?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Martin. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, let's take a roll on approving this meeting agenda.
Commissioner Isaacs,
Heather? Can't hear you.
she's getting there.
Sorry, getting there. Approved.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Aye.
Commissioner Suko,
Aye.
Commissioner Rubin.
Aye. Very good. The motion passes. Today's agenda is accepted. Okay, so we had very good minutes of last month's meeting. Largely was about Mosaic and the project, which has gone live recently, with some discussion of other elements of the work plan and discussion about future chair, vice chair for the commission. So I hope you've all had a chance to look at that. So I would ask for a motion to accept last month's minutes. Can I hear a motion, please?
I move to accept last month's minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Martin. Any seconds?
Second.
Commissioner Sorensen, thank you for your second. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Seeing no hands raised and hearing no voices raised, take a roll on the motion, please.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioner Isaacs,
Accept.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Suko,
Yes.
and Commissioner Rubin.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. The motion passes. Last month's meeting minutes are accepted and available. Okay, let's move into reports and recommendations. Without Shreya or Commissioner DiLorenzo here, I'd like to hold off on the first point so we can hold off hopefully until one of them is here, where they can talk about where things stand and what they would like to be doing and how we can support them additionally from where we are today. So that turns us to the second point, which is the public art installation, specifically the Eye in Edina, which was the winning competitive contest winner from just over a year ago, that was on display on the promenade near Centennial Lakes. And to talk about that, I'd like to have Perry speak about where we are with it and what their request is from the commission.
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. This evening, we do have a request for you that we would like some feedback and hopefully your support on moving forward. Thank you for that introduction. The Eye in Edina sculpture was on the Centennial Lakes Promenade. It was a very popular piece of art, if you recall. It had the E and the D space between the N and the A, and it was a wonderful photo sharing community kind of gathering spot where you could be the Eye in Edina. That was a student award winning or process winning sculpture that was installed there. Unfortunately, we had kind of a series of events that did require it to be removed. So the first was the materials that it was made out of were not necessarily what we would consider long-term outdoor commercial industrial grade products. It was made out of wood and some of the pressed wood, etc. So it did not, for one, weather well. It did absorb a lot of moisture when it did rain. The second, then, I know some people had said it was taken out because of vandalism. That isn't exactly true. It was taken out because of kind of that weather issue and the wear and tear. If people would it or try to climb on it, if they were children, it did degrade, so it was removed. We did pause at that time about bringing this forward because two things were occurring. The first is the commission was really breaking new ground on your 3-year public art plan. And we weren't quite sure where permanent sculpture type installations would be on your priority. And second, staff at that time was reviewing if we are going to have pieces added to the public art system, what should we require them to be made out of? Or should we classify them as permanent or maybe temporary? And what we've done now is identified a number of materials that we would request if it is a permanent installation, that it has that longevity and permanency of install, you know, synthetic wood, treated wood, concrete, metal, durable plastics if it has to be, et cetera, in the system, so it can have that longevity out there. If it can't be made out of that, or there aren't options to make it out of that, is we would upfront talk about its temporary nature and what would have to happen if it was then taken out for either weathering or damage. So at least the artist has that expectation going in about, is this temporary, is this permanent, and you can kind of have discussions around that. Now that your 3-year art plan has been done, we've looked and worked, and that permanent art is still a facet of that plan, still a facet of our community. And we wanted to bring this back because we do have a proposal to make that a permanent piece of our collection. There is funding in the Arts and Culture public, or the Public Art Fund. I wanted to give an update on that. So as you know, that is a fund set aside by the City Council for public art. What we have gotten clarification on that is currently right now, those funds are being escrowed annually. So every year, $20,000 is given to that fund. What we maybe didn't know at the time, what we do know now is those are not what we used to classify as use it or lose it dollars. So the last 2 years, those have been building up along with other donations. So the access to funds is greater than what you would think of just $20,000 per year. So we have, outside of this year's allotment, there is currently $46,000 in that fund for use of public art. Now, we're not asking you to spend $46,000. Even if we wanted to, we wouldn't ask that, right? What we're looking at doing is the initial pricing we did get on proposal is, this was about a $9,000 installation. However, we do know when we first brought this up, the Edina Community Foundation was interested in helping support the installation of the Eye in Edina sculpture to make it a permanent fixture, as well as some private donors were interested in offsetting some of this cost. So we can leverage those dollars to go even further if we did get a recommendation from the commission to move forward with this. So, but we kind of wanted to get your thoughts, your questions on moving this forward. It will take some time to obviously commission, do proposals. Good evening, Commissioner Chandler.
Hi, Susan.
We did want to work eventually then with the production of that to ensure that the student that was involved is also looking at this to make sure that the intent really matches up with that. We didn't want to change anything without consulting the original artist. We do know that there will have to be some accessibility changes to it. It'll probably have to be a little bit wider to ensure that the eye in Edina has the proper spacing. But we did want to get your questions answered, concerns looked at, and then if we could, if you are in moving forward with this, a recommendation to move forward. So Chair, if the commission did have questions, we could answer those now, or if they wanted to have any discussion on this piece.
For Susan Chandler's benefit, let me just quickly paraphrase. Susan, the Eye in Edina competition winner was taken down due to kind of, it wasn't weatherproof. The city was asking us to help approve spending some of our money to make it more permanent. And there are other parties interested in helping make that happen. The one big aha for me that I found when Perry and Tracy and I spoke last week was that our annual fund for public art actually accrued and was not use it or lose it, and that we have $46,000 in that fund. Yeah, that was my reaction too. So that's an important thing to keep in mind, because we were pretty penurious and thrifty with our funds previously. Not that we should become spendy, but we need to thoughtfully and correctly apply those funds for this use or for any other use in the future. So any questions for Perry or Tracy regarding this use of funds and for the project in general?
And Chair, maybe I can add one thing, is that the intent of the fund was to be an allocation from the general fund to the public art fund. There is concern, I believe, that eventually the city auditors will say that should be privately fundraised and that general fund allocation would go away. So that's always been a concern about this. The intent was to get public art started, and eventually it should be based on donations or fundraising or events, et cetera. But for now, it is an allocation. There is a fund balance, and we're requesting that discussion tonight on the use of it.
This is Steve. Can I just ask a question about if that money could also be used though for the maintenance of the public art collection, which we've had as a commission alternative or objective for a number of years?
Correct.
Yes, Commissioner Suko, it can be, and that is one of the things that we are looking to right now on our department work plan. So outside of just the arts area, on our department work plan is looking at where all of the public art is and how we maintain it as city staff. So should this fall to park maintenance, should this fall to Centennial Lakes, what we want to avoid is some of the pitfalls we've had in the past where repairs were rushed, repairs may have been done in the same sense, or are we better off of recontracting with the artist to repair the sculpture, so or the piece, whatever it might be. So I think we have options there, but we want to identify who is responsible for that and how we move that forward. So that's a long way to answer your question of, yes, we can use these dollars for the repair and maintenance of public art.
And I also believe we had just talked about like a cataloging. Douglas had always raised the issue of what we should really be doing to maintain a public art collection, and we've always felt that we did not have the funding or we always were seeking the funding for that. So it's a little surprising, as I know the other commissioners have acknowledged, that we had no clue that we had this money. So I think that's an interesting communication and onboarding and governance issue that I think we should leave for another time. But
yeah, we had requested a few times for where the money sat and how much we had remaining. So this is news, but it's good news ultimately. Lindsay, welcome. I hope your son is feeling better.
Thank you. I apologize. I was listening on audio, so I am up
Oh,
to
fabulous.
speed for the last project anyway. I apologize
Excellent.
for being late.
Any other questions for Perry or Tracy or comments? Whether we think this is a good use or not good use?
Yes, Commissioner Sorensen, I just had a question. Did you give the dollar amount for the restoration of this piece? Do we know that amount?
Yes, Commissioner Sorensen, we did get one proposal so far, and we would probably seek additional, or at least have it updated. I believe it is a not to exceed $9,000 amount. And it wouldn't be a restoration, it would be a rebuild, a complete rebuild for the piece. So it would not try to renovate the existing structure, it would be to rebuild it entirely. And that $9,000 was the price. Now, I did mention too, there may be ways to leverage to make those dollars go further through the community foundation if they're in private donations that were interested.
Okay, and you said the original artist would be involved with this new rendition of the Eye in Edina. Okay, and that person's already on board and ready to go, or you're waiting to find out if the funding is available, or where Where do things stand with the artist?
Yeah, so unfortunately, there isn't a policy for the Public Art Fund. So what we're seeking is your support to move this forward. So this is, it's kind of interesting. There isn't a policy or a check. So we would go through our normal purchasing process to secure the services to rebuild this and do that based on qualification and pricing, et cetera, and then move forward. And then we would get the student involved to ensure that those aspects that they designed into the structure are met with the permanency. They were concerned that it was taken out. They understand why it was taken out now. So they do too also want to see it returned.
This is Commissioner Chandler. This all sounds very positive, and I certainly will be supportive of a move forward to renovate or reinvigorate or whatever, rebuild the piece. I'm curious about if there have been thoughts given to placement, and if there's an assumption. I don't have a preference one way or another, but is there an assumption that this piece would be maintained on the promenade, or is there discussion of it moving anyplace else?
Our intent was to place the structure permanently where it was when it was initially installed. That was on the north end of Centennial Lakes at the promenade. If there is, we would have time to bring back a review of, is that the proper location, or would the commission want to look at other locations for its permanency? I think what we'd want to do is, we don't know how long this lead time would be to get things moving. So that's why I wanted to visit with you tonight about, are you on board with moving forward? Yes, we could always come back and look at locations if something the commission desired.
Yeah, I would add two things. This is Commissioner Rubin. One is we did have some conversations for placement previously about making this a movable feast and having it moved from location to location, particularly to put it into schools. Since this is a school-based activity initially, that we were trying to create interest in public art among students and among the art teachers that supported this project, that we could consider that, whether the materials or the flexibility of the piece would allow it, I don't know. So that's one thing I'd ask you to keep in mind, Perry. Second point is can we put forward a motion? I feel like we don't want to pay for it all if there are other partners. If we can make a motion that limits us to half of the cost, with the total cost not to exceed $10,000 or something like that. Is that something that you would feel comfortable us making a motion to present?
I'm thinking, you can tell. I think if you wanted to make that motion, we could easily respect that motion and bring back the results of what other proposal would be. That's your charge as a commission to kind of give us that feedback. We do feel there's sufficient funding in the Public Art Fund to do this. It was a very popular piece. We could also, as part of this process, review what other community support financially that we can leverage as part of this and report that back to you as well. So, so I'm going to leave that back in your hands as part of a motion if you want to do that or not. We could do that either way as staff. You could say you support use of the Public Art Fund, or you support use of it at this amount. We will need to go get new proposals and update pricing, but the one we did have was around $9,000.
Yeah. Other commissioners' thoughts? I mean, we've been trained to be thrifty, and if we can manage our funds in that vein, why not?
Chair Rubin, I will add this, as staff will be diligent about pursuing funding with Edina Community Foundation and those private donors that recently reached out. So
Okay.
if it is funded out of public arts, it's not that we would walk away from trying to pursue any alternate funding sources for this.
Mr. Vetter, this is Steve, Commissioner Suko again. Is the fund also, where does the utility money go that is taken off from those who participate in is that go to I always thought that went to the Edina Community Foundation, but can you just help me I understand the $20,000, which Commissioner Rubin, I do think we spent some of that, so I don't understand like why the whole amount would be available. So I guess I'm just trying to, I don't mean to take us down a rabbit hole of where the money and what's the money and when you're asking for a very different answer, but I'm just trying to track like where the largesse came from.
And I can give you a little background on that. So the fund is made up of unused dollars that were not spent out of the annual $20,000 general fund transferred into there. And it is also, you mentioned utility funds. There is an option on your utility fund if you, I don't know if you can do it if you pay your utility fund electronically, but if you do write a check, there is an option on your utility payment to add on for public art. And that was a part of this one. So I believe over the last several years, there's been about $4,000 worth of donations to that. It comes in small 15, 20s, 100s kind of things where when people are writing a check for the utility fund, they elect to add additional dollars. I believe that's only if you write a check. I don't believe that can occur if you do an electronic fund transfer, but that is another source of where dollars are flowing into this, or it possibly may be just general donations that people make on their own to the public art fund.
That answer your question, Steve?
Does, and I guess I would only add to the conversation for the other commissioners then that given the fact that people have been actually volitionally donating money for public art, you know, I as opposed to just also the city allocation, I would support spending it, you know, in a way that the commission feels useful and valuable if this is the situation. I guess, Russ, I would feel more comfortable spending what we have because,
yeah,
I mean, for what it takes,
okay.
just because, I mean, these people have actually expected something to come from it. And, you know, so, I mean, anyway, that's just an observation.
That's fair. Any other comments?
Yeah, can you, this is Commissioner Chandler, can you repeat the balance in that account again? I was stunned that it kind of flew out of my head. So tell me again what the balance is. 46?
It's roughly $46,000.
Yeah, that's how I felt too when I heard it.
So did staff.
I would support, okay, 46,000. So I would support that we could do 25% of up to 25% of that going towards this sculpture, which is, am I right here? I'm sorry, it's I've been on Zoom since 10 o'clock this morning. I don't know that I can calculate it.
25% is 11,500.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would feel very comfortable with us saying that's our up to without being consulted, because I would rather go ahead and get this done. And it's a piece that is valued by the community. It was created through a nice and inclusive process. And so I think it hits on lots of points for this commission. And I would rather not get into nickels and dimes on trying to get it up to snuff and replaced. But I would like to revisit the location conversation at a later time.
And sorry to interrupt, but just one other thing is I would also just want to acknowledge the fact that I do believe the initial development was supported by both commission funds and community foundation funds.
That's
correct? So, yeah. So
that's correct. Yeah.
This is Lindsay. I just wanted to add, I support this as well, and to chime into what Susan was saying. looking, and Russ, I think you're saying this too, looking at different locations and the ability to have it movable around the community, I think is really exciting. And as we as a commission look to install more public art into Edina, where this could pop up in different places, I think would be really fun. I think we could do a really fun campaign behind that and get it more visibility. So if we're able to kind of plan for that, I think that would be exciting.
Very good. Anyone else? Peggy, Rebecca, Heather,
No,
Lauren?
everything that's been said, and I also support it being funded.
Lauren, how do you feel about it? Are you familiar with the piece?
I'm not, but it sounds really cool. And like the rest of us, I didn't really know that we had funding. So, you know, I think we should use it, but I mean, I don't
Great.
know a ton about this issue. So,
Okay. Peggy?
I agree. I could see the piece from where I live, so I know that people, you know, loved it all the time. So to be able to have it in different spaces would be really great. It would be a great, like Lindsay said, like an Instagram campaign or something like that too, just for fun. So
Terrific. Okay, does someone want to make a motion? We need a motion, right, Perry?
Yeah, staff's requesting a motion for that. And if, Janet, if you are on, if you could allow me to share my screen, I can pull up a photo of it for Lauren or those of you that don't recall what it looked like. So,
yeah.
But you can go ahead with your motion as we do that.
Okay.
I hope this is right, but I move to go ahead with the funding for the Edina sign or the Edina sculpture.
Can
I'll second.
can I amend that? Just
Yes,
with an eye to making it movable. Perry, is that, would that be okay?
Unfortunately, I fashion myself as a connoisseur of Robert's Rules of Orders. So I would say we'll need a second on Peggy's motion before there's an amendment to the motion.
Fair.
It's a habit.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, then now I can move for an amendment to say, to not change to add that the rebuilding of the piece, make it capable of being moved from one location to another location to another location for the benefit of the greater number of Edina residents.
And Russ, did you also intend to include in your motion an up to amount of?
No, I'm going to back away from that because it sounded like there wasn't support for that. And that was just, I don't know, what do you think, Susan? How do you feel?
Well, I don't really want to spend half. I would like to be consulted if it's going to cost, you know, half of our 46 or whatever it is amount. See, I'm still having a hard time with the number. With the $46,000 in our balance, I would have a hard time with saying, okay, we're going to spend 20,000 of it. So that's where I'm saying I would like to be consulted. I think the commission ought to be consulted if and the amount to repair it exceeds a certain amount.
Okay, so
if we go by what Perry proposal is 9,000, is that right, Perry?
That's one proposal.
One proposal. So should we say anything upwards of 10? Is that fair or?
Well, that's where I was suggesting that
the 25%.
If we say 11,500 is 25% of our balance, and I can easily, without even needing to be consulted, say, sure, use 25% of that balance. That seems fair. But if it goes above that, I might also say, sure, I think the commission should be consulted. It's arbitrary, but I think it's just trying to be stewards of that balance.
I'll support that. And I think to your point, Susan, I think we're all just really surprised about this pot of money we have. And now that we know we have it, like, you know, having a little time to sink in and what we can do with that is important.
Mhm.
So-
Okay.
Back to a motion.
Well, we didn't vote on my amendment.
Well, there was no second either.
Oh, that's true. So
And I
would-
don't know, I think you should simply withdraw it. I bet in Robert's rules, we could do that.
Okay, I have no idea. Okay, I withdraw my amendment and I ask to make a new amendment that we limit our support to $11,500. And we request that the redesign be done to make the project as movable as feasible. Okay, so $11,500 movable, feasibility of movement.
I'll second that.
Okay, so the entire motion is we support the rebuilding of the Edina with a limit of 11,500 and the direction of making it as movable as possible. Okay, I hope somebody's writing that down, or so that
That's why we're recording.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask one question? Sorry.
Please.
Who seconded? I saw that Commissioner Martin moved it, but I never caught who seconded it in the beginning.
I
Maybe
think
when I did it.
Commissioner DiLorenzo.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments or discussion? Hearing none, can we take? Oh, somebody's. Can somebody? Can Perry? Can you take the roll, please?
I will. Commissioner Chandler,
Aye.
Commissioner DiLorenzo,
Aye.
Commissioner Isaacs,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Aye.
Commissioner Suko,
Aye.
Commissioner Rubin.
Aye. Okay, the motion passes. And
So, yeah, thank you, Chair and Commission. We'll work on students' return about getting new proposals, and we'll work within those recommended budget parameters. And I'm hopeful the mobility piece doesn't create expense. So we'll try to work through some options on that.
yeah. I mean, we had a lot of discussion way back when that it was essential, important, and almost essential to use this to create greater interest for public art among students. And to me, that's something we need to, as we rethink this specific project, that it be part of the consideration.
This is Commissioner Chandler. I just want to make one other comment. As we were talking, I pulled up my city water and sewer bill, which I pay electronically, and the voluntary art donation that I set up originally is still part of the bill that I pay every quarter. So there are donations flowing in, so to speak, to the to the pot of money to support public art from anybody who set that up originally.
No idea.
And I
Thank you,
encourage
Susan.
everyone to do so.
Thank you,
I had
Commissioner
no
Chandler. I
idea.
didn't think it could be like a month-to-month elective that you could very easily up or down it. So I think you're correct. If you set it up initially, it would continue to work that way.
Okay, very good. Keeping an eye on time, let's go back to reports and recommendations, use of public art fund, virtual gallery support. I'd like to ask Lindsay. Shreya is not here.
Shreya's trying to get in the meeting, but she says she's having trouble, so she's gonna try again in a little bit.
Oh, wow. Okay. So the action requested under this is to discuss and recommend the use of public arts funds for expanded marketing to support the virtual art gallery program. Lindsay, you want to talk about this?
Sure. Specifically what that means is just having access to some funding to promote some Facebook posts, potentially an ad in the Sun Current or other applicable places. I know it's $50 to do a Facebook post. I think it's roughly $3.50 to do a quarter-page ad in the Sun Current. Those are the things that we've the city's looked at so far. So we're working with the Mosaic students to figure out where they might feel is best to place kind of promotional stuff, but we're asking for just general approval to use some funds for marketing.
Is there a specific amount you're requesting?
I talked to MJ about this. We don't have a specific amount right now. We can do to what we last did, like up to, if we want to do up to 500 or something like that, because we don't have definitive places to go because we're still looking at places and costs. But if you want to do a cap on it, we can easily do that. But just to have some funding to go towards promotion.
Yeah, I feel that we need to have some dollar amount attached to that. 500 or 750 or whatever you think
Sure.
is reasonable. And that would come from the public art, from this 46,000.
Yeah. Who knew?
Yeah, we could do a blimp with that money.
Well, I just had a question. Lindsay, you're looking for money for marketing for an extended period of time too, right? Because this gallery is up until December 2021. So we should also think about that when you're looking for a dollar amount. We want to cover how many 9 months or so of this. So
yep, no, that's a good thing.
That's a real good point.
Yeah, and I mean, if we could have more money that we could, dip into for that to take us through longevity, or if it's something that the commission felt like we need to check in after a few months because this is a very fluid project. But to Rebecca's point, which I appreciate, like having a little bit of freedom to say this, $2,000 to take us through December to promote, and if we need more, we can come back. But whatever the commission feels comfortable with.
Are there any restrictions on giving money like this, and they have carte blanche on how it can be spent? I just want to make sure we're not doing anything erroneously. So we can just.
This was how MJ suggested that we approach it. So.
Great. I would. You haven't made a motion yet, so I would suggest that we do that. Put a cap of 1,000 on it. $1,000. How does that strike you?
It strikes me as good. I think that might not take us through till December, but we can revisit it.
Okay, well then, what would you? I mean, make a recommendation.
I would actually recommend. Again, this is our biggest initiative. I would recommend spending. I mean, again, I'm not trying to be like spendthrift, but this is our biggest thing of like ever. So I think we want to promote it.
This is Commissioner Chandler. Did we have a publicity plan created accompanying this gallery?
We do have a communications plan that the Mosaic students in the city is working off of, and we've done a lot of just, a press release and organic reach out to media and different community organizations. That's all unpaid, editorial. But we don't have an advertising budget per se, as we're still working on that, and that's something that also the city is helping us with. But.
Okay. Rebecca, what do you think? You look like you're thinking about this.
Yeah, no, I do think that because it's such a electronic campaign, with a virtual gallery, it is expensive to promote on Facebook and social media, and I think that we should. I think $1,000 won't get them very far.
Okay.
So since we are rolling in it right now, no, I just think like it's nice to sort of bump them up to something where, because I mean, I know from just even an event that I do that you can easily blow through $200 a month and, only reach. I mean, it's very good too, because especially when you promote on Facebook or places, it really does get a lot of traction for what you're promoting, more than I think you can get for, it works obviously in hand with editorial, but I do think right now with media suffering as much as they are, I think paid advertising is a really good idea. And I think it will also help us get more coverage for this event, so, or for what we're doing with the virtual gallery. So, you know, I'm thinking more around the range of 2,500 to 3,000 for, you know, to get you through December, with some Facebook ads, you know, with, like Lindsay said, the Sun Current is well read and would do a great job. They have a great electronic page. You know, we can do some things with Edina magazine. That just gives you a little bit more of a buffer to do the basic. I mean, that's not an extensive campaign. That's pretty basic.
Okay. Lindsay, would you make a motion?
Could we just have a little more discussion,
Oh,
Russ?
sure. I'm sorry.
I completely support the concepts of all of this. I just wonder if we need more of an outline or a budget or a plan or something that kind of describes what this is. And by no means does it need to be anything formal, but I mean, I like all of the ideas, but don't we want to have them kind of planned a little bit more planful?
Well, I know, I'm sorry, I don't have a document to share with you today. I know the city is, you know, we're working hand in hand with MJ and the communications office at the city. I think my worry of putting off another month is that we're going to lose that whole time to promote. And we're calling for the first round of submissions to be in by March 12th, which would not, we would not make that within, you know, there'd be no promotion for this. So if you want to put a stipulation on it until then, but I think we would just lose time. So that would be my, and I'm just basing it on what MJ has come up with, what the city's done previously with like $50 for Facebook and things like that. So.
Okay, that makes sense to me. And I hear the urgency of getting this rolling. How about if we agree on an amount and then at a future meeting, we review what the plans are and what the budget numbers are accompanying that, just so we have some understanding. And then we also would have in place then maybe a nice roadmap for the future. So if we're doing something like this down the line, we can refer to this and say, well, we spent this amount of money in promoting it. You know, this is where we spent it. So I would be supportive of, in other words, advancing the money, you know, agreeing on an amount, moving it forward, and then reviewing how that is being spent and you know, just sort of for document's sake, I guess.
Sure.
So
I think, oh, go ahead.
put that in a motion, please, somebody. Hi, Tiffany.
Would you like me to go ahead and make the motion?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. I move to request $3,000 for promotion of the virtual gallery with the intent to come back with a more detailed plan at next month's meeting.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sorensen. Any further comments or discussion? Hearing none. Director Vetter, you take a roll on that, please.
Absolutely, Chair. Commissioner Chandler.
Aye.
Commissioner DiLorenzo.
Aye.
Commissioner Isaacs.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Sorensen.
Aye.
Commissioner Suko.
Aye.
Commissioner Rubin.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. And just again, great work by Shreya, Lindsay, all the Mosaic students. Thank you so much for everything you're doing on this project. And I encourage everybody to check back regularly on the site and see what's going up. Lindsay, can you just talk about
well,
that?
I just wanted to say the city posted it again on their Facebook page, which is very easily shareable. So I would encourage all of you, if you are on Facebook, to share that with your network. And keep in mind, I mean, of course, this is a City of Edina project, and we want to really encourage community residents, but it is open to anyone. So it's not restricted within our community borders. So, and again, wide definition of art, spoken word, poetry, writing, dance, music, all of it. So anyway, I've been working hard to reach out to different organizations around the Twin Cities, starting there with all those different definitions of art in mind. And so people are responding already, but we would love to really get the momentum going on submissions.
Right. Right.
I don't know if this is a good time to mention it or not, but Lauren is on this call with us, and she had a fabulous idea of a way that Mosaic, and I mentioned this to Lindsay as well, and I think Lauren was going to talk to Shreya, an idea of Mosaic students leading art classes or a multimedia art kind of format based on the different categories of this virtual gallery. So it would be like a Saturday morning Zoom, almost like a Parks and Rec kind of class that would allow for people to purchase a Reactivity box and then hop on a Zoom and do a guided art project with a student member from Mosaic to get sort of some of our younger participants started and ideas generated around how they too could access this project. So I don't know, Lauren, if you want, is this a time to talk about that? Or it's just a nice thing, I think, to mention that could help, again, just spread the word to the community, especially some of our younger participants.
Lauren, anything you want to add?
Yeah, well, a part of this whole idea, I don't know if we'll, end up doing it or not, but Rebecca and I were thinking of potentially having different like series of Reactivity boxes, just being aware of what's happening in Edina culturally coming up. We were thinking maybe the first series would be about racial injustice, and part of these Zoom calls would potentially be incorporating that into the art project and maybe having a little lesson about it, an interactive kind of thing. So that's, I just feel like it's important to mention because it's not just the art, but it's also tying into the struggling to healing thing with the Mosaic project.
Excellent. Thank you.
I love the interactive part of that, Lauren. I think that's really great. And I don't know, I know Sabi is one of the Mosaic students who's working on this, and he has reached out to all the art teachers in Edina. And he said, I don't know which one it was specifically, but he did mention there's one art teacher who was looking to do workshops with her students for this particular project, which is great. So maybe there's some kind of good collaboration there as well. So I don't know how the Reactivity boxes work on the back end. So I can't help there, but maybe we can involve some of the, like I said, the art teachers and Mosaic students to make a more collaborative effort. But yeah, get people talking. It's great.
Yeah, I think that would be cool. Maybe doing a partnership between the Mosaic students and the Edina High School art teachers or something like that. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Good. Any other comments on kind of the current status of this project? Any questions for Lindsay? Harry?
Chair, I just wanted to maybe ask to ensure, are we in the work plan updates? Because it sounds like we're kind of giving maybe updates of the work plan. We can have this conversation flow exactly what you're talking about under the updates. So
thank you. Thanks for your guidance. All right, let's move on to C and the reports and recommendations, the 2021 work plan updates. So we have 4 initiatives in our work plan, as you're all well aware. The first initiative is implement at least one event in year 1 of the Edina Public Art Plan, Art and Healing Virtual Art Gallery. So that's what we've been talking about. So any other additional, and Lindsay and Shreya are the leads in that, any additional comments, questions, feedback on that specific initiative? Or did we, Lindsay, is there anything else that you want to share about the project?
Nope, just keep spreading the word and we'll report back. Thank you.
Great. No, terrific job.
And Chair, I just wanted to confirm with Lindsay, the previous conversation about the connection of Mosaic with the high school students, do you want us to place those comments under this
Yeah,
kind of initiative
please.
dialogue.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
my mistake. Absolutely. Okay, initiative 2 is conduct an evaluation for the public art event, which was the first initiative. Evaluation will inform the commission on a possible second public art event. And the names assigned to that are myself and Heather is departing the commission. So what I would ask is, and actually, since I'm on 2 of the 4 initiatives, I think at next meeting, I would ask that we assign 2 other commissioners, and we have new commissioners coming in to pick up the responsibility for this project. I would say that's my report on that initiative to date. Director Vetter, is that okay to leave it that way?
Absolutely, you're correct. Yeah, just so that for the commission's benefit, we no action on this item. Just looking for any updates that you may or may not have.
Right. Okay. Very good. Initiative 3 is study and report on potential incentives or procedures to include art and decor elements when opportunities arise in public and commercial projects. And that is Rebecca and myself on that. And Rebecca, we need to meet in the next couple of weeks to discuss what the actual next steps are. You've had some initial conversations, I know. Anything you want to add to that?
The only thing I would add is I did have a meeting, as I was mentioning in the beginning of the call, with Pete Dinovic, a developer
Yeah.
at 49 and a half in France, the Nolan Mains property. He's very interested in engaging with the commission on public art and taking that further, the broader definition of public art, performance, theater, storytelling, music, looking at partnerships that we could help bring to his plaza with public programming. So I've got a meeting actually with him this week with Peter Brocious, who's the artistic director of the Children's Theater. Would very much like to collaborate on programming for children this summer on Pete Dinovic's Plaza. So I think that be important to know who all the stakeholders are involved with planning events at 50th. Perry mentioned another person we should connect with, but that is one example. And I know after also speaking to our city councilor, Carolyn Jackson, that there are other developers that have public spaces that they would like to collaborate with the commission on in terms of coming up with creative content, ideas, performances, ways that they can enliven their public spaces. As most of the new developments that are coming into the city, it is very much a part of the proposals that are coming in. There's a big incentive for a lot of these developers to have a public space for art and events that the community can engage in. So I'm staying on top of some of the projects that again, just from the ones I'm aware of, and I know through the city councilor, and we'll continue doing that. And I'd love to talk to you, Russ, too, about other ways that we can get involved.
Right. I mean, I think part of our charge is to figure out how to create an ongoing process for this, so that it's there's a consistent approach, and working either with Bill in the city staff, with the planning commission, whomever, to make this part of an ongoing procedure. So I think that's the report for where our status at this time on this project, on this initiative. Sorry. Initiative 4. Any other? Sorry, I might have cut that off. Any questions, comments, other thoughts that people want to add to that?
This is Commissioner Chandler. I just want to say that I think Rebecca's update is really exciting and something that we would like to get behind as a commission.
Terrific. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Okay, initiative 4, as a new art space is pursued, commission will provide community perspective to the planning process. That's Commissioner Chandler and Commissioner Suko. Anything you want to comment on that, guys? Or Commissioner, Director Vetter, is there anything that you can tell us that would help inform what Commissioner Chandler or Commissioner Suko might be able to do?
Not at this time. However, when a role is identified, we'll definitely start with Commissioner Chandler and Commissioner Suko before coming to the commission for getting that perspective. We are planning to discuss some ideas or options with the city council as kind of a rebreathe with them at their council retreat. I don't have a lot of detail on what that format or deliverables are going to be for them, but we hope to have some clarity on maybe what their thoughts and or ideas on this are, and then begin to move that forward. So look for some information. That is, I think mid-March they have their annual retreat, and then we can have a little bit more of a maybe a roadmap once we have that conversation with them.
Commissioners Sorensen, I know you talked to Council Member Jackson. Did the topic of the art center or art space come up in your conversation?
The one part that she did mention to me was that it really was sort of taken out of our line of duty activity that
Yeah.
my understanding is I spoke with her, Perry, we've had conversations just kind of pie in the sky, where would be the best place to have a new art center, and talked passionately about revitalizing our downtown at 50th and France, and is there an opportunity there? And so I was having a conversation with Carolyn Jackson on a number of topics, and went into sort of ideas, and then was told by staff, and also Carolyn sort of alluded to it, that the Arts and Culture Commission will no longer sort of be involved with the search for a new home for the Arts Center, that that process is not a part of the Arts and Culture Commission's role now. So that was the update that I had.
Okay, anybody else comments on that? Or...
I put it all on Steve.
I look forward to the clear communication from the commission, not in a conversation with Commissioner Sorensen on something else, that we're not involved in that anymore. So I guess I would, if anything, make a request that be clearly communicated to the commission, if that's the city council. Is that fair, Commissioner Perry, or I'm sorry, Mr. Vetter?
I've not had any conversation with the council about this initiative. As far as I know, remains on your work plan. And your role is, as we pursue space, is to provide that community perspective on what we should look for in having that. So I've not received any communication that this initiative has been removed from your work plan.
Okay.
Well, thanks. I mean, it'd be I think we'd be happy to have it taken away from us.
I think there needs to be some clarification, though, because I was pretty much told, I was exploring the conversation and was told to step away, that that's not something that the Arts and Culture Commission should be involved with. So who should we follow up with, just so that we have that, as you know, Steve said, clearly spelled out, so we can take that off our list of initiatives and fill that initiative with something else. We don't want to spin our wheels looking at potential new locations for an art center if it's not something that we should be involved with. So who would be the person to kind of clarify that part of our mission, our work plan with?
Well, I think I can just clarify right now, is I think the actual search of a location was not part of this initiative.
Right.
It was, as we pursue a new space, was to help provide a community perspective. So is not necessarily identifying a location, but what we use and what the community would need out of a space. I think from staff, we're trying to drive as well as, where can we find space? What can we look for? Is it permanent? Is it temporary? And then what goes there? And what we really need help on is that community perspective, is how would a space be used and what would we use it for? So I don't believe this initiative had included in it a search for space, if that helps clarify.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that is.
It never, I mean, if you go back all the years we've been involved, we weren't responsible for finding spaces. We were responsible for providing feedback as they looked at spaces and giving guidance as to the kinds of requirements and need a space should have.
Yeah, and I would just say, with all due respect, Steve, I would argue that it's a good thing to keep this on our work plan, even if it is a little bit muddy in terms of what our role could or should be, because I do think we want to be able to have some involvement should this bubble up again. And I understand it's not to help determine what the space or place might be, but by having this on our work plan, we have a place, as small of a place as it might be, at the table.
Wasn't arguing for keeping it on or taking it up, but rather just, I mean, I guess I did make a offhand comment that'd be happy to be done with it after 10 years, but but I think it would just be nice to have clarity, because as Rebecca, as Commissioner Sorensen mentioned, I mean, it's a little confusing, you know, in mixed messages. And I would say, Mr. Vetter, that you know, the commission does have a long history with this topic, and placement does have something to do with programming, because it has to do with accessibility by public transportation, location in vibrant areas. I mean, it's not, you know, it's fine to say we shouldn't have an opinion on where it's located, but I think that's part of our community engagement, and we do have 10 plus years of knowledge, as do many people in the city, over this topic. So, and then finally, I'll make a gratuitous comment that I think we should allocate $35,000 to. No, it's not a motion. That's not a motion. I withdraw it.
Very good. Thank you, Steve, for that comedy relief element. Very good. I don't think.
I just had one other question, though, for Mr. Vetter. Has there been a public announcement about the closure of the current art center? And do you have any idea? Because as we engage with the public, I don't think many people realize that this art center is closing in its current location. For example, this summer, will there be art classes there? I'm guessing not. So, and it was just again an observation, even with the marketing materials for Parks and Rec this summer, that just doesn't seem to be any public statement about the closure of it. And I think a lot of people feel very attached to the current location, and I just wonder when that announcement will be made, and if we can just be kept in the loop when it is made.
Thank you, Commissioner Sorensen. We've not actually made that decision. I think one of the options still is to do renovations. And currently, with the restrictive guidelines on the pandemic, that restricts how we can operate that center. I mean, it's a beautiful location. We love its character and charm, but when you look at some of those rooms, it's not conducive to 6-foot separation. Because of the accessibility issues, we can't use upper and lower at the same time. So there are a number of factors because of the guidance around the pandemic that we're not able to operate there. In addition, we have facility concerns. So we've not made a decision one way or another that it's we wouldn't reinvest in the facility or we would. So it is unfortunately a little bit in limbo, right? We've got pandemic restrictions and capital needs, as well as should we pursue alternate locations. So we've not made that definitive recommendation or decision that the center would close.
Thank you. That's very helpful to know.
Very much so. All right, keeping in mind, and any other comments? Okay, our last
Chair
point.
Rubin, just one point I wanted to make. I'm not sure if you're aware, but if you look at the plan in your packet, the council did change this format a little bit. So if you look after each initiative, there's progress Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So they are looking for an update or just notes of progress or news or information. So at the end of Q1, we would ask you to provide an update that we can put in here. Those will get updated to the council. So in the past, it was kind of a 1 year, you know, at the end of the year, you provided an update, or as an initiative was completed, if it was a report. Just want to draw your attention to. So after March, we'd look for an update to put in that progress box.
And that's a written point that we need to submit how?
We can submit to staff and we'll add it to the progress piece. And then I believe MJ will take them all to the city council as an update.
Okay.
Can be as short or as long as you'd like. We may edit for brevity, but just they wanted to see how it would work if they got quarterly updates rather than at the end of the year.
We were not aware of that. Okay. Fair enough. we'll assign
Got
responsibility.
one more month
for that.
to
Right.
at the end of March.
Okay. All right. Now comes the real fun part of our meeting, is the annual election of officers. As everyone knows, I am no longer available or able to serve as chair. So we are looking for the nomination of chair and vice chair. Peggy has expressed an interest not to maintain as vice chair. So we are looking for nominees. I would add that I've had conversations and would like to propose a slate of Rebecca Sorensen as chair and myself as vice chair. So I would entertain any additional nominations at this time, or comments and questions on that slate that was just proposed.
Chair, just procedural, add a few things is just, like you indicated, we'll open the floor for nominations. Each nomination would require a second to go to a vote.
Right. Yeah, before we get into that, I just want to see if there's anyone who expressed interest, anyone who was against Rebecca or myself in those positions, and then we can continue with a motion on each of those positions.
And Chair, I would recommend that we take nominations for chair first.
Yes,
Do that,
absolutely.
and then we would take nominations for
sure.
vice chair.
Sure. Any additional thoughts?
I'm very open to anyone else who might be interested in serving as chair as well. I'm very flattered, Russ, that you're nominating me. And I would just again like to say that if anyone else who's had experience, more experience than a first-year commissioner would like to jump in and take this role on, I would happily support you as vice chair. And so Russ can have a break from this. And I also just look forward to a spirit of collaboration with this commission. I would hope that in the future we can have, it's very challenging, obviously, to collaborate in this format, but I would hope that we could each have conversations about the direction we'd like to see this commission going in, and new ideas to just bring some new life into the work that the commission is doing in partnership with, obviously, the city. So in any event, I'm happy to step up if no one else would like to do it, but I also want to leave room for anyone else that might want to do it.
This is Commissioner Chandler. I would strongly support Rebecca's nomination as chair of the commission. And I do not think that there's any concern that I would have about her service as she calls herself a first-year commissioner. I think her leadership abilities and her interest in arts in the city are evident.
Agreed. All right, let's move forward then. I would like to make a motion for Rebecca Sorensen to be nominated as, I hope that's the right wording, nominated as chair of the Arts and Culture Commission for the year starting March 2021. Do I hear a
second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Chandler. Yeah, I would have gotten there eventually. Okay, any additional comments, questions, concerns? Hearing none. Director Vetter, could you call the roll?
I could call roll, Chair. I just wanted, are there any other nominations that just to provide that one opportunity as part of the process?
Any additional nominations for chair? Hearing none. Voting on the motion of Rebecca Sorensen to be chair of the Arts and Culture Commission for the year starting March 2021. Director Vetter, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Chandler.
Aye.
Commissioner DiLorenzo.
Aye.
Commissioner Isaacs.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Sorensen.
Aye.
Yeah.
Commissioner Suko.
Aye.
And Commissioner Rubin.
Aye. Congratulations, Future Chair Sorensen. Okay, thank you. Thanks for everybody. Okay, let's entertain a motion for Commissioner Rubin to be vice chair for the year beginning March 2021. Do I hear any other nominations? Hearing none. Can somebody make a motion in that regard?
Commissioner Rubin, you can nominate yourself if you'd like to make that motion.
Okay, I
This
nominate.
requires a second.
Yeah, I move that Commissioner Rubin be vice chair for that time period.
Second.
That was Commissioner Martin. Okay.
Just to clarify, that was Commissioner Martin that did the second?
Yes. Okay. Director
Russ,
Vetter.
wouldn't you rather have one of us nominate you? You moved too fast.
No, Director Vetter said I could do it, and nature abhors a vacuum.
Okay.
It's allowed, I was saying.
Yeah. No, who cares? Let's. I mean, really. Perry, could you read the roll, please?
Commissioner Chandler.
Aye.
Commissioner DiLorenzo.
Aye.
Commissioner Isaacs.
Aye.
Commissioner Martin.
Aye.
Commissioner Sorensen.
Aye.
Commissioner Suko.
Aye.
And Commissioner Rubin.
Aye. Okay. Thank you for the vote of confidence for Rebecca and myself. We have a lot of good stuff on our plate. It's exciting times with the project Mosaic going on, and this is terrific. And Shreya, glad you're here. It's going great. And Lindsay and you are doing a terrific job with your partners in Mosaic. So thank you all.
Russ, I'd just like to thank Peggy for serving as vice chair for the last year. And I'd also like all of us to thank Russ for his leadership for the past 3 years?
3 years. But who's
as
counting?
chair, but who's counting as chair? And it has been a commitment of time and effort, and I really appreciate everything you've done, Russ. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Very sweet. Okay, well, we're running out of time here. So city council updates. Perry, is that for you to talk about?
Just wanted to affirm what's in your packet, that the city council at their last meeting did appoint 3 new members for the Arts and Culture Commission. So in March, we will welcome Alyssa Fromm, Laura Westland, and Susan Johnson. They are actually taking their orientation this evening, and we will plan whatever orientation we need to do outside of tonight for them. So they are ready for for you to welcome them at the March meeting.
Do any of you know these individuals? Okay, obviously
I do.
not.
I know Susan. I don't know Susan Johnson personally, but I know her. I think it's her daughter-in-law, and her granddaughters have started a very popular dog treat business in Edina, I think it's called Lucia's Dog Treats or something, or no, Luca's or something like that. Anyway, so I just happened to see that there was a connection there. That's it. But looking forward to meeting them.
Yeah, and any suggestions you have for Rebecca or me or any of you to how we can do a great job of onboarding everybody and getting them involved as quickly as possible. I think we did an okay job last year with Lindsay and Rebecca initially, but then with the pandemic, we all petered out in that stuff. So whatever you can do to help, that would be great.
Given the amazing contributions of those 2 commissioners, Russ, I wouldn't change a thing. So
no, I think it had more to do with them than with us in terms of onboarding.
Russ, I do feel as though we want to put maybe a little extra effort into this, because it's so difficult to really get to know people. It's difficult enough when we're in person and we come and go from meetings once a month. It's obviously more difficult when we're just staring at a screen. Is there any additional efforts that we can take to, you know, share our backgrounds with them or try and find connections? I mean, I'm just, can we think of something that we can do over the course of the next couple months to somehow, I mean, it's like, otherwise we're just never going to get to know these new commissioners, nor are they us.
Rebecca or Lindsay is the newest ones. What do you think?
I don't know if Lindsay wants to talk. I was just going to say I would personally love to contact them and feel out sort of their interests and backgrounds, and maybe even create something, a little backgrounder on each one to share with all of you commissioners, so that you have a sense of who they are and their backgrounds. And I think in general, our commission could use an opportunity to really revisit our objectives and be clearer about where the city sees us being an effective partner, so that we know how to just access them right away and get them involved in the right effort. I'm sure they're jumping into this because they care about the arts in our community and they want to get involved. Sort of how to channel that excitement and enthusiasm towards the better good of our Arts and Culture Commission and our city, I think would be great. So, and that, on that point too, I also just feel like I really regret that we all didn't have more time together in person before we had to go to this format. So I too would like to call each one of you commissioners as your new chair and get to know you and your passions and interests. And obviously working with Russ will be so helpful. You have so much history and experience with this commission, but I think this is a great time to sort of, you know, do more with this new public art initiative, and obviously with Mosaic and this exciting virtual gallery, as well as other opportunities within our community to get involved with the arts. So I just think revisiting kind of where the city sees us being vital and useful, so that we all feel like what we're doing matters and is contributing to, you know, arts and culture in Edina the way we all think it should be. So, but I do think a personal call, especially at this time when we're all kind of doing a lot of this right now, would be a great way to get to know these new commissioners, find out what their interests are, their backgrounds, and I'm happy to do that, Russ, with you.
Sure.
Together or separately, and then report back to everybody.
I appreciate that idea and suggestion, and we could all certainly do that. Perry, I'm conscious of the open meeting guidelines and not wanting to you know, do anything that crosses those. I'm sure, I know a phone call doesn't. What can you remind us what we can and cannot do? And is there any latitude on these meetings to have a 10-minute flexible conversation amongst commissioners at the beginning of the meeting or something like that, where we don't have to stick to the agenda? I'm, you know, in other, you know, in board meetings, in other organizations, you know, people go into Zoom rooms and just try to get to know each other a little bit. I don't know what we have available to us that still maintains the open meeting laws and the dignity of commission meetings.
Excellent question, Commissioner Chandler. As you were discussing, it was one of the things I was writing down, was just reminders of open meeting law. And I think this would not, social discussions are not necessarily a violation of the open meeting law at all. You can call each other on the phone, you can talk to each other at the grocery store, you know, you don't need to do those things. The open meeting law was designed around ensuring that the discussions and decisions that you come to are made during a public meeting. So it isn't if Commissioner Sorensen calls Commissioner Chandler and says, how are you going to vote on this issue? And then Commissioner Sorensen calls Commissioner DiLorenzo and says, I heard Commissioner Chandler's going to vote this way, how are you going to vote, right? So it's this serial nature of decisions and discussions that you cannot have. Social settings, getting to know each other is appropriate, right? You are members of the community, you're going to run into each other, whether you do it at the phone or if you're walking around Centennial Lakes Park, you can interact with each other in a social sense. We just need to be cautioned about discussions around things that are on your agenda or could be on your agenda. Those decision discussions you have around those topics occur during a meeting. So we wouldn't want to have as part of your call be discussions around how would you decide to evaluate the public art program, right? Because that's on your work plan, that's going to be on your agenda. But if you're talking about what are your interests, why did you get on the commission, what do you hope to accomplish? Those are social things, and you can do that. But what we can do as staff is work with Commissioner Sorensen for post this meeting about to make sure that you don't delve into the gray or you don't cross that line into open meeting law violations. So you can have fruitful discussions about the cohesiveness of your commission in the appropriate setting and on the appropriate discussion. So we can work with you on that to define what those topics are and ensure that there are no concerns about open meeting law.
Lindsay, you wanted to add anything?
Yeah, I thought I heard it might be possible. I know these are long meetings anyway, but just to open them up maybe at 4:15 versus 4:30. And Director Reda, correct me if I'm wrong, but that we could have just kind of an open social discussion during that time. That might be nice to just a nice way to kind of step into the meeting. And I think one thing that was, I don't know, was lost because of COVID or not, but just kind of open brainstorming sessions. Because I think from what I've learned over the past few months is we have a lot more ability as a commission to plan things for the community than I realized. And so if there are ways that we can throw out ideas, I think we did a little bit in the past, maybe a few months ago, but nothing really seemed to stick, or maybe I missed it. But just having more freedom and flexibility to propose different ideas and have a more free conversation around that. So, and I don't know if that happens with the first 15 minutes of chat, and then that can maybe transfer to an agenda item the month after. I'm not very good at those logistics, but opportunities to that as a larger group, I think would be great.
Terrific. Thank you.
As staff, we can look into how to facilitate that discussion. I'd be more comfortable if social was social outside of the meeting and any of those discussions were part of your meeting. Now, if you wanted to start at 4:15, we could start meetings at 4:15 if that's easier or harder, or however we do that, but we can work within your framework to try to accomplish what we can with you.
And on that note, maybe this is what, Rebecca, you might have already said this, but like having a reminder from city staff of what we as a commission are charged to do, are allowed to do, is within, because I think there is some murkiness there. Maybe it's just me, but if anyone else feels like that, just and especially with these new commissioners coming on, kind of revisit what our parameters are, and can we plan a music festival? Can we do, who knows? But like just kind of throwing it out there and trying to get some big ideas out there to understand. If the answer is no, then we know. But I don't know myself, I guess. So.
Good.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay. That's what I was trying to say earlier too. I think that's really helpful for us to have some guidance from the city, because as we talk about engaging with other public spaces and people that are interested in coming to us to collaborate, I would also like some more framework around what we're able to do with other community partners. So just the way you said it, Lindsay, is perfect. If we can somehow, if that's a conversation we can have with you, Perry, or with MJ or somebody else, so that, sorry, I'm losing light here, then that would just be very helpful going forward. Because I think these new commissioners and a lot of us that are, Lindsay, myself, who are new, have ideas about ways to be more involved. My understanding from conversations within the city is that they would like this commission to be doing more in the community. So if we could just get some guidance around that, that would be great. Helpful to me too.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay, want to respect everybody's time here. I'd just like to say a couple of things before we move for adjournment. First of all, want to wish Susan Parnowski a quick recovery and return to these meetings. I also want to pass on our condolences to Peggy here for the loss of her mother. We've had a lot of that going on around here lately, and I don't care how much you see of it, it's always hard. So Peggy, best wishes to you and your family. To Heather, again, thank you for your years of involvement and support. Thank you, and good luck on your book binding and your other activities that'll fill your spare time. I also just want to thank everybody for helping me do this job for 3 years. And that's it. So can somebody make a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Commissioner Chandler.
Any seconds? Heather, I'd like you to second it. Be your farewell
Okay,
activity.
I second.
Very good. Thank you. Roll call, please. Director Vetter.
Commissioner Chandler,
Aye.
Commissioner DiLorenzo,
Aye.
Commissioner Isaacs,
Aye.
Commissioner Martin,
Aye.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Aye.
Commissioner Suko,
Aye.
and Commissioner Rubin.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the week. Stay safe. And Rebecca will be leading the meeting next month. Thank you. All right. Good night, everybody.